Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. Right. Whether you're swiping right or meeting someone for the first time over coffee, the way you communicate, the way you show up, both online and offline, can make or break that crucial first impression. And in dating, that first impression can spark instant attraction. We know this. Or it can also stop things before they even start, and then you're not giving anything a chance. And here's the thing. Long before you sit across from someone, they've already formed an opinion based on whether it's your profile, your photos, your posts, the way you walk in the room, the way you show up digitally, but also like in your presence. Now, what research shows is probably, oh my God, I haven't even looked lately, but it only takes 7 seconds to make a first impression. A couple of years ago, it was 30. I actually think it's probably like 2 seconds at this point. And people are making judgment calls based on two things. This is just research based. How people are dressed, so your wardrobe, but also your attitude. And that includes your body language. And again, your energy. So your presence and how you show up is even more important than the words that you choose, again, when you're trying to make that first impression. And obviously, there's so much more that goes into connecting. I'll never forget, there was a woman, I might have told this story before, but it's so relevant to what we're going to talk about today. She called me up, and actually, she wanted my help to help her network for business. She was like a very high up executive, and she had a ton of conferences that she was going to, but she was a highly, highly socially anxious person, a little bit of introvert tendencies. And she just didn't have the presence and the charisma to know how to like connect with people, networking. Yet, I mean, for her job, it was so crucial. So she's like, help. And when I talked to her on the phone, it was so funny because she was very serious. Like I tried to just crack her up, tell a joke. She was not having it. And she gives me her credit card. And oh, by the way, she was single too, but that's not why she was hiring me. And she's like, okay, so we'll meet at such and such. And she was up in the Bay Area. And so I flew to her, and of course, I show up in my red dress and my sparkly earrings, and I hug people. So I see her, and I say, "Oh my gosh, hi!" with a big smile, and I hug her, and she was just like this stiff board, and here she was dressed in like a beige suit with a bun in her hair, and just kind of pulled away from me and shook my hand. And she's like, nice to meet you. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have so much work to do. And so, from there, we really kind of just worked on, I mean, I have this whole social engagement formula that, my clients, that I walk them through, and how to get out of your head, out of your like stiffness, and into something that's more personal, more storytelling, more vulnerable, more authentic, that really helps you connect with people. And we practice it. And we went all over town. And then it was time to go to like a conference to really practice the networking. And I had her go change her clothes. And I said, whatever dress you have, any kind of color will do. Just come back and we'll meet at a bar and let's just, get ready. And so she comes back and she looks great. Her hair's down. She did have a little color, and her dress just made her have just more of a feminine flair, and definitely more approachable. And wouldn't you know, at the bar, a single guy sits down next to us and starts talking to us, and he starts flirting with my client. And again, she wasn't intentionally like looking for a guy, but because we were turning on her charisma, that energy and the way she presented, it just drew him to her. And so it completely woke her up. And then, of course, we went to the conference. We were navigating the room. We met the leader, and she was off to the races. After that, she started dating up a storm, and she had no problem. A lot of times it's just, you're not aware of it, and you just need to be shown a different way. And these are all skills. I always call these are soft skills that are learned in business, but these are also dating skills. So today I have someone on the line who will help me dive into how to shape your digital presence so that it captures attention for the right reasons, but also how to express charisma and personality in your messages and interaction and how to align your online and offline presence so that you make a lasting impact from the minute you say hello. And this is both business and in dating. So she is such a cool, I'm so glad I connected with her. She's a founder of her new company. It's called Copilot Communications. And she has spent 20 years helping leaders and entrepreneurs. I mean, she's a badass. Wait till you hear her. Master the art of powerful and authentic communication. And she's worked with Fortune 500 executives on crafting magnetic first impressions and communication. And that helps inspire trust and connection and skills that translate directly into dating success. So that's why I wanted to have her on. Welcome, Jess Jensen. Hi.
Hello, Kim. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, thanks for coming on. I know we were talking offline. It's like, wait a second, you're a business person. I'm a dating person. How do we segue? And then as we were talking, and as I just said, it's all the same skills, right?
Mhm.
So I was really excited for this conversation. You told me a little, but I actually don't really know like your personal backstory. Like, I would love to just kind of hear your journey and how you segued into all of this.
Sure. Yeah. So I, after business school, which was actually in LA, where you are, I worked for four Fortune 500 companies. So inside these kind of large enterprise organizations. So I kind of made my way from Nestle, which is consumer packaged goods, of course, CPG, where I marketed chocolate to families, um, to footwear and apparel, working for Adidas and then eventually into the tech industry where I worked at Microsoft and then Qualcomm. So kind of traversed three different verticals, but always was in digital marketing, social media, executive communication. So always that through line. Um, and you can imagine over the course of the last 20 years, a lot has changed in
Oh, yeah.
social media, certainly. I was part of the team that launched the first Facebook page back in 2008 at Adidas, back when that was still a new
Oh my
thing.
God, that is so, so cool.
I know it's so funny to say that now. It makes me feel like, oh my gosh, I've been at this way too long. But so, social media, as we all know, right? It's in our pockets every day. It's changed tremendously. And one of the opportunities that's really arisen over the last decade is the idea of building an executives platform. So specifically for that person. And it's not in service of necessarily them in sort of a selfish manner. It's actually very much in service of the division they look after, the business that they started. And a lot of things I think you probably teach your listeners and your clients around showing up as their full selves when they're dating is very true when it comes to showing up as your full self as a business leader.
I love that. What so have and just on a personal note, like have you always just naturally been like a communicator or was this something that you learned when you were younger? Like how did you become the expert kind of thing?
Yeah, I think the humility in all of us, I always am reluctant to say that I'm an expert because we're always learning and growing. But
I know, right?
I have honed some skills at first, really in that kind of traditional brand marketing and then digital marketing and social media
Hmm.
space. And then I would say in the last decade, as I became more seasoned and more just comfortable in my own skin as a professional, able to kind of sit with, the highest of high leaders, right? And be able to kind of provide counsel, advice, coaching, really bridge the kind of left brain and right brain. I know we were speaking earlier about and I can specifically speak to the tech industry. It's very often very engineering led, very technical sort of expertise. And when we ask leaders to sort of segue a little bit out of that realm and maybe have conversations, whether it's with their team internally or a customer externally, that are maybe broader than that, it can be a little bit of a jump for them. And so I just realized that I had a skill set that could cover both sort of the marketing areas of expertise
Mhm.
from my background, but also the kind of human and sort of interpersonal side that was necessary to work with these leaders.
I love that so much. And I think it's going to be more and more needed, like as technology advances and people's social skills go down. And it's like these soft skills are so important.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever thought of it this way, but this is what I talk about, like with this stuff and dating, is that people want to move on with people that they feel something with, not based on what they know. And I think so many people who are dating and people in business, they memorize or they're so knowledgeable in, certain things. And when they're networking or they're trying to land a date, they rattle off a bunch of facts. But it's about the feeling, not the facts, that make people connect.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what they were. It's there's so many quotes about this, right? Like
Yeah.
people remember how you made them feel. And it's true. If you don't connect in those first few minutes, certainly in person, like as you were saying at the top of the recording, but this applies, as we know, into our digital lives as well. Or if you show up in one way in person and then someone different online, that's
Oh,
also,
yes. Like
yeah, there's a
incongruent.
disconnect.
Yes. Yeah.
Incongruous, yes.
Well, actually, it's so funny because I was just going to go there. Like, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make when it comes to their online presence? Because I have a feeling it's very similar to what I see in the dating profiles too. So I think we could all learn from you.
Yeah, yeah, and I actually would love to ask you that question as well. So I see, so I'll maybe go through three or four. I see number one, folks thinking that my job as, again, some sort of leader of a team or a business, a company, is that my job is to kind of regurgitate whatever sort of the PR team has told me to say.
Oh,
So it doesn't have to even be as literal as I'm going to post a press release on LinkedIn. It could just be I become kind of a mouthpiece for the product launches, the customer announcements, the trade shows, and it's okay to have some of that in there. But one of the things that I teach my clients is that we really want to have a portfolio because you as a human are a portfolio. So keep that, maybe add a little bit of your sense of humor, your personality, your point of view is super important, especially at that level. But then, in addition to talking about the goodness of the business, perhaps we also cover where you see the industry going in the next 10 to 20 years, or how you like to build culture internally with your people, or what you're doing, on summer vacation. Like, let's pepper in more about you because that's what's going to make people want to follow you, engage with you, and then grow your ability to influence.
oh my God. So I just thought of something fun that we could do because after as you go over some of these things, then I can also see how it shows up in dating, right? Like, and we can kind of compare and contrast because as you're talking, I see exactly the same thing in dating profiles. So
Mhm.
what people will do is they'll like when they write their profile, they'll rattle off like almost like a grocery list of things that they're looking for or who they are. Like, I like to travel. I like dogs. I like this. I like it's like, like Dr. Seuss, like so vanilla that like honestly chat GBT could write that. Like and probably better, to be honest. And so I say the same thing. It's like, what can you do to inflect more of like that personal touch by giving examples? So instead of saying, I like to travel, say, you'll find me climbing the mountains of such and such, on a vacation in August. And then those details is what makes it real and also what people can ask about. So
Yeah.
it's just interesting, like what you're saying, because I see the same thing. So okay,
Yeah.
that's a really good one.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll add a second one, but just to build on what you said, we all see this, maybe we just don't even realize what we're seeing when we read posts on social, right? Like whether it's video, it's the written word, however the medium might be, stories stick,
Yes.
right? So what you were just saying about don't just say that you like to hike. Actually talk about a place that you've hiked, a trip that you've gone on. How far did you go? Who are you with? What was a challenge that you faced and overcame? Like that's the kind of stuff that makes people not only lean in and kind of fall in love with you because they can relate or they admire or they remember, but it's just more interesting, frankly, as a consumer of content to read stories than sort of laundry lists like Dr. Seuss.
Okay, so that's exactly what I teach my people when they go on dates. I said, so we work on storytelling a lot, like whether, people are taking my flirt workshops and I'll do like exercises around tell a story about a subject and then don't say like where you're from, don't give a laundry list of how long you've been single. Like they can read that on LinkedIn. I actually like joke about LinkedIn and dating. I'm like, your all exchanges look like a business LinkedIn exchange,
Yeah.
and instead do something that is more storytelling. The other thing that I love about storytelling is that that's what makes you more memorable. Like if you have a conversation, most likely when you walk away, you're going to remember the story about what that person told rather than like a fact
Yeah,
that was important to
totally.
them, right? So I
Totally.
love that. I love that. Okay, so what else?
Okay, number two, I would say that there is a feeling of I need to be perfect.
Oh.
And again, I'm sure you see this on the dating
Oh my God,
side.
this is so good. I see, I told you.
So, and again, LinkedIn is a great example where and it's been around for a long, long time. And historically, I think we all know, it's really been kind of a resume repository. And then it sort of evolved a little bit into more of a professional networking space. But honestly, Kim, over the last 2 years, I've really seen LinkedIn morph. Like it has become a proper
Wow.
social network where people are having conversations, they're sharing things that are more personal and vulnerable. What I love about that platform, frankly, is that it's still like a pretty safe, mature, kind of just healthy place to be. You don't see some of the stuff that you see in some of the other platforms as nearly as often, which I love. But you are seeing more of people's full selves reveal, which we didn't see maybe 3, 4 years ago. So that's exciting. But there's still a tendency, I think, especially again when you're at an elevated level, you're responsible for a big budget, big team, et cetera. The pressure can be high, and you want to come across as being perfect. And I don't mean to say that you want to have egregious grammatical errors in your copy or you want to have, terribly lit video, out of your living room. I mean, there's certainly levels of just basic professionalism, but um, I absolutely think that being imperfect and showing
Mhm.
that you're working on something new, you're trying an experiment out, asking for feedback, again, that builds warmth and approachability.
Oh my God. See, yes, this is all, no, it's all similar to that. Because, I mean, really what we're talking about is human connection. I don't care if it's business or relationships. I mean, relationships are relationships, and
Yeah.
I think with also AI growing, I think it's even more important to have that like vulnerable touch that is backed up by a story so that people actually know that you're real.
Yes.
And so obviously we're seeing this on the dating apps. Like there's so many like scammers and bots, and you don't know who's real. And so the more authenticity you can infuse in your profile. Beyond that, though, and I don't know if you recommend this like when you're chatting with people in LinkedIn, but like when people are exchanging DMs,
Mhm.
like in their Bumble account or whatever it is, I don't do the prompts. I tell people all the time because there's people don't know what to say. So they'll throw out and copy and paste some of the prompts that the apps give,
Mhm.
or they'll throw out these like lofty questions like, "Hey, how are you?" or "How was your weekend?" Like what are you supposed to say to that? you know. So really like understanding that the more you like for what you were saying that you share that authentic kind of connection where maybe you see something in the profile and you say, "Oh my gosh, me too. I did that." Or, and that is such a better way of connecting. And honestly, I would imagine to do business with too. Like I'd much rather connect with you at a personal level. I know you're smart already. Like we don't have to like exchange that. But if I like you, I'm going to do business with you.
Yep, 100%. Totally. I think, one of the silver linings that came out of the pandemic, in my experience, is that it broke down some of these artificial barriers that we have erected for, millennia, between work and home.
Yes.
private and public, right? I'm this person in my 9 to 5 in my suit, and I'm this other person on the weekends and at night. I think because we all went online and many of us on video, and again, almost all of us from, unless you were, in a frontline kind of role, you were working from home. And so we got to see the kids and the dogs and the messy house and all those things, right? We had the interruptions. And I think that some of that has still bled through into 2025.
Hmm.
We are seeing people as full humans more than we did back in 2019. And I think that's a huge blessing because the idea that we're two different people in work and play, I believe is an artificial construct.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point. Never thought about that. Okay. Are there any other mistakes? And then I know you have like some steps to take for people to help with all these mistakes, but I didn't know if there was another one that you want to
Yeah,
mention.
I'll add just one more, and this is
Yeah.
actually the last step of kind of my approach that I work with clients on. But the third one that I've seen is, and this again will tie, I'm sure, back into relationship building for dating too. But digitally, it's very easy to sort of publish kind of one way conversation and then walk away. And so that again might have worked 6, 7, 8 years ago when there wasn't as much digital clutter, when people were sort of more willing to take what they could get. There wasn't maybe the expectation that you would respond, especially if you're a public figure.
Hmm.
But honestly, the real conversation, the real relationship building, it's happening in the comments. So whether that's a DM conversation or
Ah.
public comments, responding, even if it's just a quick sentence, thanks so much, or love that idea, really appreciate your note, even if it's nothing really deep, it illustrates that you're present, you want to have a two-way dialogue, you care what people have to say, and you actually want to have real relationship versus sort of using digital as more of a publishing tool.
That's so good. You know what I just thought of, which I think would be a really cool exercise for people, because most of you listening, I mean, you're professionals and some of you have your own business, but even using social like LinkedIn to practice some
Mm.
of the conversations, because then they can apply that to their texts with dates, DM exchanges, that kind of thing. It was so funny. There was a guy that I'm working with right now, and I'm teaching him the art of flirting through text, which is super important when it comes to modern dating because we're all so busy. If you don't know how to flirt text, it will die, like hands down. So it's crucial to get some of these like online skills and in ways of conversation. But then, for me, it's more the flirting piece. But this guy, so he was learning, and I was teaching him how to infuse more feeling and emotion because he sounded like a robot, like when he was going back and forth. And so he was getting pretty good at it. And then he said he met this girl and he sent text, and then she kind of ghosted. Like she was a little bit in it, and then she wasn't. I'm like, can you send me those texts? And so he sends me the text. I said, okay, come clean. You used ChatGPT, didn't you? He's like, guilty as charged. I said, if I was a woman and I got that text, I would have thought that all of a sudden you're not you.
Hmm.
Like I didn't trust it when he sent it to me. So I can only imagine how it landed. So that's why like what you're saying is so important. Like even practicing being real in the way that we interact. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter what the interface is. I think it's just a crucial skill that we really need to watch for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So I love you said that you have a 5-step process, right? And helping people. So I mean, you don't have to go in depth into each of them, but I'd love for you to touch on them.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, this is kind of a loose framework that I use in the upfront of when I first work with the client. So we obviously need to set a strategy. Like any good project, you want to have a goal in mind and sort of define how you're going to go about it. And then you get into the ongoing sort of creation of content and nurturing your channels and all that good stuff. So the first one is, and again, I think many of these will relate to dating. The first one is defining your audience of one, as we say. So I would imagine with dating, same thing. Like, who are you looking to attract? What kind of partner,
Yes.
right? And there's demographics and then there's psychographics and all kinds of other things. But it's the same with business, right? If you want to start to build a digital platform as an executive, who is your most important audience? Is it a certain subset of potential customers? And again, who? Is it CEOs? Is it heads of procurement, CIOs? Like who are those decision makers? Maybe it's investors. Maybe if you're a small business owner or founder, you're actually looking to build a platform so that you'll get future investment, right? From VC and
Mm.
private equity. So define not just the category, but really what are the interests and sort of aptitudes of that audience of one? Because every time you create content, no matter the modality, video, copy, whatever, you want to be thinking about that person. I would even encourage you to name them, right? So give them, name them Jess, name them Kim, right? Whoever it might be, so that you're writing, you're creating, thinking of that audience and how it's going to land on them.
So you could do this with dates, right? Like if you have a certain like vision of who you want to attract, like just like put a name to them. What do they look like? What do they sound like? Maybe do you ever do like vision board stuff with it, or how do you
I haven't. Well, it's an interesting idea. It tends to be a little bit more written,
written?
but I do think that it's the same idea of begin with the end in mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Like have a vision of who it is that you want to attract in a relationship or as, a client, customer, investor, whatever, and continue to return to that audience when you're coming up with your communications, right? Because the more that you kind of beat that drum, the more likely you're going to get to your goal.
That's awesome. Like I can think right now just how this could apply because a lot of my clients they'll complain, "Oh, well, I keep attracting narcissists," right? And so it's like, "Well, okay, so what do you want instead?" It's like, "Well, I want someone who cares about me, who isn't all about them." It's like, "Okay, well then what do you need to do to attract that?" Right? And then go back to the skill set they need to learn in order to attract somebody who cares about them. And most of, like in that case, it's learning how to show up for them and demand more for themselves and set boundaries so that they don't attract takers. So I love how it can totally work in both realms.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's a good segue into the second step, which is really about clarifying and defining what you stand for.
Ooh.
And this can be something that not everyone is thinking about day to day. Of course, we're busy, we have so many inputs, but whether that's, the values, that are important to you from how you were raised in your family of origin, perhaps it's sort of behavioral characteristics that are meaningful to you. But write down like 3 to 5 um, principles that are meaningful to you and how you want to come across as you're beginning to put yourself out there. Because like attracts like, right? If certain things are your values, then that's likely going to match with other folks that have similar.
That's awesome. There's no explanation there. I mean, that's a direct hit and what you should be doing with your partner or your future partner. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean it's similar with in the business world, right? Like if
Yeah.
I want to attract, let's just take employees, because again, I think they're kind of forgotten sometimes when we think about public digital platforms like podcasting, like social, like
Right.
even email, blogging, we think about it often as like, well, that's the public. So that's aimed at sort of the customers, the clients, the investors. But the reality is any company that employees are largely following the leaders online. They're watching.
Mm.
And so even if you think about, hey, if a I'll go back to the notion of being willing to be imperfect. If a value that I want to instill in my current and future talent or employee base is one of experimentation and willingness to fail, because that's how we grow and that's how we get better, then I need to model that. And guess what? A lot of your employees are seeing that online, and then they're going to feel like they have the permission to also experiment internally.
So powerful. Yes. Yeah. And even um with the, and I talk to my clients about this, but even in the business world, I think this is important. It's like who you surround yourself with, in
Mhm.
terms of friendships. And, like if you have a scarcity mindset and you're surrounded by people who are constantly complaining, not abundant, or not feeling good in their love life, then it rubs off on you. So to your point, if you reverse that and you become the light, then you start having more of that abundant mindset too, all the way around.
Yeah, right. Like, isn't there a quote that says something like, "We are the average of the seven people we spend the
Oh,
most."
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Bingo.
Which my mind goes to like, okay, let me write down who are the seven people I spend the most time with, and then wow, yeah, that's probably pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I mean, like who are you dating? If you're complaining that you find the same people over and over and over again, well, maybe that's who you're surrounding yourself with in the community, the things that you're getting involved in, your friendships, right? So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one. So what's the third one or
So
third
three
step?
is it's really taking one and two and merging them into an approach. And so the idea we talked earlier about being authentic, about telling stories, and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. It's taking the notion of, okay, here is who my audience is, my ideal audience of one, and here is who I am, my core principles, values, what I want to stand for publicly. And then now how do I bring those things together and start to tell stories that are authentic and real? So that third one is really a marriage of those first two, and it's the product of one and two.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and we talked about that. So like all of those things are awesome. And then what's four?
Yeah, so four is this, and this might be a little different than I think maybe but you tell me the world that of dating. But the fourth one is people have a tendency to think that they, I'll use the crude term spray and pray. They should just show up in all the places. And it's better to sort of like do the same thing across six, seven, eight platforms and just say, well, I've covered all my bases. And this almost goes back to like knowing your audience. Your better bet is to select one digital platform and really go deep, really learn it. Again, having a partner, whether it's me or someone else that's working closely with you, that's going to help tremendously because they're going to have expertise out of the gates. But learning how that platform works, learning the nuances of it, knowing how your audience there responds to whatever you're putting out, and then editing, adjusting, iterating. And then once you've really maximized and you feel pretty sophisticated in that one space, then go to step two, three, four, and other platforms. But don't peanut butter across a whole bunch of stuff in the beginning and not ever really go deep.
Oh my God, that completely applies to dating. So here's where my mind goes is that there's so many of you listening that are numbing out by swiping. And so you're on a million platforms and then you're saying, I'm dating. But are you really like, what are you really doing? You're just swiping, but you're not being intentional. You're not really connecting. You're not going out IRL in real life and actually practicing connecting with humans. And so people then get burned out and they say, see, I tried it. I dated. Right? But they didn't really connect. And a lot of it's fear based and a lot of it is also like maybe feeling like they don't know how or put themselves out there. So it shows up exactly the same way. So I think it's intentionality. So whether it's focusing on like one specific platform in business or one specific thing that you can practice in dating, and then from there you branch out and then it starts working together.
Yeah, yeah, well said. Yeah, and I think sometimes you're right, it's fear-based, and I also think, I mean, I'll speak for myself, like it can be impatience, right? We all want immediate
Yeah.
gratification for our whatever our efforts are, whether it's I went to the gym for 2 weeks straight, how come I
Yes.
don't see all, the cut delts, right? Where are my arms? But we know that anything really that's good in life, it's going to be a long-term commitment, right? Like we're planting seeds that we have to nurture and allow like seasons to maybe go by for those seeds to like grow into plants, right? We're farmers. So like that's 101 when it comes to sort of like brand marketing, but I think it really applies to the world of digital that we're in today too. pick a platform, get good at it, keep coming back, keep showing up, and over time, I bet it will produce results.
I'm so glad you mentioned the whole instant gratification. That is so true. And, you know, what I see happen a lot is that in efforts to like speed up time, they're actually wasting time. Because I'll have people say, oh, it's almost like an oxymoron. It's like, well, I don't want to waste time. So I'm just like going through, I'm like, well, in your efforts to kind of numb out and speed up, you are wasting time by swiping and not connecting.
Yeah.
So it is a weird kind of thing because in our minds we're thinking we're not doing enough and we need to like keep throwing stuff out there and but it's so true when you slow down and you just like really focus, that's when magic happens everywhere. Like I don't care what we're talking about, love or business.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. The last step is the one that we talked about already, which is this notion of you build trust through responding. So
Oh
you
yeah.
don't just want to be sort of working in a one-way behavior, a publishing behavior. You want to be thinking about how do I really stay engaged and be part of the conversation? Um, and again, I mean, I can imagine that maybe it's a little easier in the dating world to know that you need to respond if someone's DMing you. A little bit different when you're on kind of more of a public forum. But I just think that there's such value in really, again, internalizing and digesting the comments that we get in those public formats because not only should we respond, because that's just the right thing to do to build a relationship, but they're also, it's data, right? It's telling us,
Yeah.
oh, that went down a different path than I thought it was going to. Maybe I should do another post about that. Or
Hmm.
someone jumped in that I haven't heard from in a long time. Maybe I need to reconnect with that person because they're obviously paying attention to what I'm doing. It can give you data that's actually useful in a broader way when it comes to future business development, future relationship building, etc.
Yeah. Well, and isn't that true too? Like for building trust, like do you teach like online about also the repetition of it too? Because like it's not just enough to have one touch point. Like you have to have multiple t touch points to really feel like there is that build of connection.
Yeah, for sure. And even, I mean, and again, this is kind of a fundamental of brand marketing, but it's the marketers or sort of whoever the creators are of the content. We will tire of the message far, far before our audiences will, because we're living and breathing it. And so,
Right.
yes, you need to repeat it in many ways, in many places, maybe slightly different angles, because again, we are hit with so much online right now. It is overwhelming the avalanche of content. So we shouldn't expect that someone, and again, I think about this is a great analogy with dating, like maybe they just missed your
A
text, you know?
100%. Oh my God. I've saved so many dates because of that. Or they got like a number off and they texted the wrong number. Or there's so many things that happen. And if you had a good enough time with someone or you have somewhat of a good connection online, like hang in there. Like it does take multiple touch points. Absolutely. That's why I was asking, because I think it's showing up everywhere, quite honestly. Because to your point, we're just moving so fast and we have so many distractions.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but like I feel like texting is actually a really good scenario for this to happen because everyone's got different strategies for how they manage their various comms, right?
Right?
But like, how often do you open a text, look at it, and go, I got to get back to that, but I can't right now, right?
Oh my
And then it
gosh.
gets buried
Yes.
down the list. You lose track of it, and like a week can go by, and you go, oh my God, I never responded to Kim. And meanwhile, the other person's like has written a story about why, and really it was just an accident.
Oh my God. No, this literally just happened. And somebody thought that the other person was ghosting them, but they missed the message and they were on vacation. It had nothing to do with it. But we personalize it. And then again, because of the swipe culture, we just move on instead of like hanging in there and saying, hey, like what happened? Like I felt something here. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing. Like I don't think we're giving enough chances to one another
Yeah.
to have that. So I
Yeah.
could go on and on with you. This is so fun. But I was just wondering, are there any kind of last words of wisdom that you would want to share? And then please, like, let everybody know about your company for those business people out there.
Yeah, thank you. So again, my focus really is on executive branding. And if you want to learn more about me or hear my sort of origin story, the website's super easy. It's copilotcommunications.com. You can also sign up on the upper right corner in under newsletter for my brand new newsletter, which I just launched 2 months ago. That was
Yay!
a goal of mine for 2025. And so in that newsletter, it's only once a month. And it's really like pro tips, stories, and a little bit about what's going on with me. So I think it's a fun way to get to know me and also up your game with your digital comms.
That's awesome. Any final words of wisdom?
Oh my gosh, the world needs more humanity.
Ah, amen.
So
Yep.
don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to just be imperfect. And when you do that, you open the door for others to be imperfect. And man, like everyone's shoulders drop.
Yes. And it breaks barriers between people. It's like I always say perfectly imperfect. So Jess, thank you so, so much for coming on. I really enjoyed connecting.
Yes. Thank you, Kim.
And thank you for listening. You are listening to the Charisma Quotient. Of course, I'm your host, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And if you know your online and offline presence needs a little help, and especially in ways of relating and dating and connection, start by just downloading my style guide. Like that's a great first step. And then you can see even just how you can get ROI with your wardrobe. Just go to kimmyseltzer.com/style to see what kind of body type you have and start paying attention to how your clothes make an impact in the way that you see people and they see you. And then, of course, you can always hop on a private call with me. Just go to the show notes. You can tap on the link and find a time so that we can chat about all of these things. And remember, working on you is working on your dating life. That's all for now.